Excellent. Glad to hear that. So I did review the minutes. I didn't have any issues with the minutes. Did anybody else review them? Did anybody else have any issues with the minutes?
No, I reviewed them and they were fine.
Yep.
Can I
Yeah, they
have,
look fine to me.
may I have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
All in
I second
favor?
Aye.
All right, so, let's state minutes as reviewed and approved. My next agenda item I have is 10 minutes. I don't think it'll take that long. First, I want to welcome everybody back, and we'll welcome folks back as they come in. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that it's not just a first meeting, but it's also a last meeting. And Jane, I want to,
Yeah.
if we could have had a
Oh, lost you.
Yeah.
for all of the hard work that you've done. You've been a great asset for the
Thank
board. I think we will have we'll have some difficulty replacing all the work that you've done and the insights that you've provided and the stability and good thinking that you've brought to the board. And we're sorry that you have to leave us. We will miss you.
Thank you. I really
I'll
appreciate
speak for the board and the royal. I will miss you, and I think we will miss you.
Second.
Thank you. And I will miss you all too. It's been an honor and a pleasure working with all of you. And I'm sorry we had to move out of the township.
Well, if you decide to move back, let us know.
Okay. Well, thank you.
We got somebody else.
I don't know, is that, well, that's probably one of our, it doesn't come up with a name, so it's probably one of our guests, public participation guests.
Oh.
I'm gonna have, okay, yes, from Lorraine Warner has dialed in to listen to discussion. This is the right call. The public participation occurs at the end of the meeting. Two other items on the opening piece. One I put up as recruitment, and in the email conversation I had with Alex, he noted that that he is actually has a couple of people that he's been talking to about possibly recruiting them for the board, and I'm grateful for that. I really think it would be to everybody's benefit, those of us who are on the board and show up every meeting, as well as the folks that we serve on the board. If we could get our standing board up to the 10 allowable members. Charlie, hello, how are you?
All right.
Welcome back. Saying hi to everybody and bye to Jane. And I was saying to Alex that I'm grateful. He's apparently trying to work on a couple people to perhaps apply to join us on the board. But we have now, with Jane's departure, and you know that Jane is because she is moving out of the township, she's going to have to resign from the board, and this is her last meeting. So we'll have 3 open spots, and I'm wondering, should we perhaps ask Maura to consider having the commissioners include in their newsletters a blurb of some kind that we have open spots and we'd like to solicit folks, and then just take that offline, and we can word that, maybe give a couple of sentence blurb to give to the various commissioners, to ask them to put in the newsletters they send to their constituents and recruit that way.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, agree.
I'll take that as an action item for myself. And actually, I'm going to ask Lisa. I think that from a meeting norms point of view, I did want to work this year on getting our meetings tighter and more executive in style, so that I think that if we start including in our meeting minutes action items and responsible individuals, and ask people for as part of the review of minutes or into old business, we can figure out which way to do that. Include responsibility for the action items, and that putting in timeframes for the various agenda items and asking people to as much as possible hold true to the timeframes, which will mean that much of the work that we do, we should be doing offline before and after the meetings, because really not much work we can do except during the meetings, except to raise issues to the front and set courses, and then much of the work should be done offline. So I don't think that's any rules or anything like that, but just a set of norms that I hope we can agree on and follow and just reinforce them, I think, on a regular basis. So the next, I'm done with that unless there's any comments, criticisms, anything that anybody wants to add in. I'll move to the next item.
Is that the
Okay.
student interns?
Yes.
Okay, our contact with Radnor High School is JJ Lemon, who is a school counselor. And I gave him the notification. I emailed him the notification and he sent it out yesterday. And I hope that all of you agree, because it did go out late, that the applications will be received by 9:30, reviewed, and then selection by the 8th of October, so that the group of students can attend the next meeting. I did send it out to sophomores, juniors, and seniors. There was kind of a question whether sophomores should be included. In the past, I've noticed that really not many seniors, if any, apply. So you all can decide whether you want to just limit it to juniors or seniors as the applications come in. But I would ask that you also notify the students that were not accepted so that they know what their status is. And these applications will go to Lisa, Alex, and David. And Alex, thank you for taking over. It's a lot of fun. It really is. Some students are much more energetic than other students are. Some you have to, follow up on all the time. Others, just do a great job of just standing on their own. So it's a really fun process. And I also want to add that because we've had issues with the students wanting to do surveys in the past, there's a note in there that students will not be permitted to do surveys.
Survey-based projects will not be accepted as
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because
we've had too much trouble with that, and I have an issue with surveys anyway. Unless you have some way to validate the survey itself, it's an awful lot of work, and then you have an unvalidated survey.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have a problem with it, because you can have your teachers and we can review the questions and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a beginning process for the scientific method. But the problem is more that parental permission. Is there any subject matter in it that is questionable? And it just goes on and on and on, that they will not give permission for the kids to do these surveys. So before they even think that they can do, which I've told every year, I tell the students, the survey's not going to work, they still try to do it. So by doing this, then we eliminate that hassle. So I wish you guys good luck with it. If I can help in any way, please reach out to me. And I hope, we get a good pool of kids.
All right, so I'd like to take it from there. So I don't know, we'll have, you asked that the applications go to Lisa, Alex, and myself.
Correct.
And what I'll do is let's offline. So September 30th cutoff. We want to give them answers by the 8th. So I'll look at the calendar, and sometime a few days after the 30th, I'll try and put something as a meeting for the three of us to discuss that and see how we'll proceed, giving however we allocate that responsibility a couple of days to get back to folks.
Sounds good. Yeah, what we did is kind of each of us rated the applications, and then we kind of came to a consensus, and that seemed to work very well.
Right.
I think it makes sense to offer it to sophomores, because I feel like seniors, they're just too busy other
Yes.
things that, even if we get seniors, I'm not sure that they would have the time to contribute to it. So I think including the sophomores is a good idea. Definitely it did go out yesterday because my daughter, who's a sophomore,
Okay.
was like, Mom, do you, like, no idea what's going on. She said, I saw your name on something. So it definitely went out, and I saw that we already got a response
Yeah, we
today.
did get one
Oh,
already.
good,
Yes.
good. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. So Joan, are you on board? If that's you, welcome aboard. Joan, you with us? Are you on mute?
Sorry.
Oh, well.
So action item will be for us to meet and discuss, select, and hopefully have them available for the next meeting.
Exactly. And you
Okay.
can put an action item to organize that.
Great.
That second process. Is that Joan?
Yep. Yeah, I was having trouble unmuting.
Maura,
Well,
excellent.
hi,
And
Maura.
Maura.
We've got everybody.
Hi
So,
there.
Maura, we've gone through the approval of the minutes, the welcome to everybody, the farewell to Jane, who is moving out of the township and thus leaving. We talked a little bit about meeting norms, and we've just reorganized the intern project because Jane mainstay for that, and she's leaving, and Alex will be taking the spot there, and Jane, Lisa, and I will be involved in the selection of the interns from the pool, and before I took care of getting the letter sent out to sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Excellent. What do you need me here for?
Well, we got some things for you later on in the agenda, so we do.
Got everything done. Yeah, sorry, I'm sort of bouncing from meeting to meeting. I apologize for being late, but it sounds like you got a good start.
You got a good start, and thanks for joining.
David, excuse me, would you want to step back to the recruitment because that
Oh,
would
yeah.
involve Maura?
Yeah, we gave you an action item already.
And you-
Well, Alex has actually been talking to some folks, and we're 3 folks down from 10, and I think we need to start working to see if we can't recruit up to full strength. So I thought that I would write a little bit of a blurb that you could easily edit if you'd like, and we'd ask the commissioners if they don't mind each. I'm guessing most of them. I know that that Lisa sends out a regular newsletter, and I'm guessing most of the commissioners do. And if we could ask the commissioners in their newsletter to solicit participation in the Board of Health, then I think that'd be great. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, happy to do so.
That'd be wonderful.
I will definitely put it in mine, and I will ask all the commissioners to do the same.
Thanks, Jane. All right, with that, next item on the agenda is Marie's health officer report.
Okay, good evening. I'll keep it short. It looks like we have some participation waiting there in the background. Just to kind of piggyback on what you were just talking about, Dr. Simmons, as far as an applicant is concerned, Commissioner Borowski just forwarded me some information today, actually, for somebody who was very interested and has an extensive history or experience with population health. So we just gave him all that information on how he can kind of proceed to, start the process to be a member. So that's in the works.
Excellent.
We're going to continue to partner with the American Red Cross. Our community blood drives have been successful, so we're restarting those. We are going to, instead of the RAC this year, the community center, we're going to do some of them in the Radnor room, which is great. So we're excited to keep that going. We moved over to the Radnor because the American Red Cross has kind of backtracked with their mitigation for COVID. So they're cutting down and they're keeping spacing and they're wearing masks and things. So we were able to provide that smaller room for them, since the donor list will be a little bit smaller. So the first drive would be 9:27, the next one after that 10:27, and then run from 9 to 2. I'll mention, because I know, Dr. Simmons, you have this on your agenda, the agenda later on. We did have a Zoom call myself and Township Manager Bill White with Delaware County Intercommunity Health to just give an update on the creation of the health department. So we can talk a little bit about that later on if you like. OEM related, no protocol updates since we last, I guess, met, or since I last sent out the most recent protocols. We're continuing to monitor the Villanova dashboard. It's been up and running since they came back at the end of August. They've had 187 cumulative cases since they've been back. Currently have 49 active cases. Reported new cases got as high as the teens, 18 or 19 a day. In the last few weeks, they have since come down to single digits. And those are newly reported cases. And like I said, we can touch on the county update later on. Thank you.
Thank you. So who is responsible for counting cases in the township?
So what I was just mentioning was the Villanova dashboard. That's something we've watched. Yeah. So that's just a concern that was across the board in the township, and we watched it when they had an increase in cases way back in last semester. So we're just keeping an eye on it now.
So I think by the time we have our next meeting on schedule, if I think things will they have to kind of bring one way or another. If there is no outbreak, and we've been, let's face it, Southeast Pennsylvania, Delaware County, Pennsylvania in general have fared with a huge amount of good fortune in this pandemic. This is another wave. It appears that looked at on a national basis, this wave may be cresting using the case counts nationally. But if we're fortunate enough to get by again without a huge outbreak here, then the possibility of meeting in person for our next meeting, I think, needs to be taken into account. There was some discussion about my level of discomfort for meeting in person. Now it turned out that because it was Tuesday night and not Monday night, I couldn't have made it in person anyway. So it kind of cut the controversy out. Simply couldn't have made it. And I appreciate everybody's forbearance and willingness to do this as a remote call. So any other questions or comments related to Marie's health officer report?
Marie, any updates on the open staff position?
No updates. Inspections are happening and being conducted, and we are probably, we're moving through them. We're not really behind, but there has been no further or new information on another staff person in our department.
That might also relate to the Delaware County Department of Health issue as well, and so let's actually we might as well move that forward on the agenda list of old business as first. We as the Township Board of Health have kind of been tracking the construction of a Delaware County Department of Health. And it turned out over the summer, a couple of things happened that kind of caused some flashing red lights, such as who will be accountable for what form of inspection. And I think that there were some township commissions that got their noses a little bit out of joint as a consequence of things that they heard about the establishment of the County Department of Health. So the question that I have actually for you, Marie, is has this conversation elevated to a level outside of the pay grade of the volunteer Township Department of Health, or should we continue to invite the folks in and maybe work on getting somebody in to give us another update next month?
So I think, and I'll let you know just based on the call that we had just a few weeks ago. So there was supposed to be a more definitive update letter that was supposed to go out right after Labor Day that was going to give a better description of what the county is going to cover versus what municipalities or townships are going to continue to cover. I've yet to see that at this point. I don't believe that our township manager received anything either. So I know that is coming. There was also going to be, I'm just trying to look at my notes here. So, yeah, I think that was supposed to be the next step in communication from the county. We haven't gotten that yet, so we don't have any. I do know that I did learn in the meeting that, the county is going to cover a lot of what I do here at the township. It's also going to cover some sewer inspections, rabies inspections, rodent inspections, hoarding inspections, food establishment inspections. I don't know if I mentioned pool inspections and lead inspections. So that is all supposed to be covered by the county. But like I said, I haven't had any, letter received up, right as of today.
Okay, so Maura, do you have anything that you want to share with us on that? Do you have any insight or no?
No, Marie's gonna know more than I do on that. The manager is keeping us up to date with her updates, but that's more detail than I had. So thanks, Marie.
So Marie, why don't you and I offline after this meeting figure out what we in Township Board of Health can do and whether we should be bringing anybody in and when you know more, we'll be able to have a better understanding of that. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair, and that's totally fine. I know I don't have much definitive information. I do know there are a lot of people in the works trying to get that clear information. I know prior to meeting with the county, along with the township manager, I also know that he reached out to our solicitor to find out, exactly, what the Board of Health is required to do. Or what options the township has. I don't believe I have any information back from that as well.
Okay, yeah, so that's exactly the kind of thing. We'll have to sort that out, whether we have a role in kind of holding. I think we may have to hold feet to the fire. We meaning the larger we of the township. If they're going to take over functions that you're already serving quite nicely, but they're not going to serve them quite nicely, well, that probably doesn't work for the township. And I don't know whether we on the Board of Health have a role in that or not, but we'll just have to sort through this as things move forward. Any other comments on that item? All right, then let's move back to the top of the old business. And Joan and Maura, I wonder if you can update us on where we stand with. I know, Joan, you put a huge amount of work into reviewing animal health ordinances. I know that there was a lot that could be done to upgrade them and take them out of a previous millennium and into the new millennium. And I wonder, can you update us on where you stand in that? I don't know that we need to go over all of the different issues, but where do we stand in the process of and what can we do as the board to help get you to where you need to on the updating the animal health ordinances?
Maura and I talked about it. Maura, do you want to do the synopsis of our conversation, or should I?
Why don't I'll start, and then you can correct me where I mess up. And I apologize to everybody. My camera's off. I'm now trying to get into transit to get to the township building for the next Board of Commissioners meeting. So I have turned off my camera, but I am very present. We had a great conversation. Joan and I went through her suggestions and edits that this group has seen. I think that there are a few things that I need to run by the township solicitor. I have not yet gotten a chance to talk to him about it, but I'd like to meet with him to do a little bit of benchmarking about our ordinance against others in the region. Joan has identified some things that really just don't make any sense and we should get in and change. But I'd also like to compare what we do with some others. And then we additionally spoke about additional legislation that is being proposed at a state level that would restrict the sale of, basically it's a anti-puppy mill legislation, and it would restrict pet stores from selling dogs and cats, for sale. They could do adoption, that sort of thing. We currently I don't believe have a store in Radnor Township that does sell dogs. They seem to be of the mind of adoption events and that sort of thing, which is good, but this would prevent any from coming in. So I'd also like to look a little closer at that. If you want to look it up, the state level version is called Victoria's Law. You'll read about a dog that was a puppy mill breeder, and a rescue group and some advocates who are pushing at the state level, but they've also drafted local ordinance language that might, I think Norristown has perhaps is the only one I know of who may have adopted it or are in the process. So again, want to get a little bit more information about that. And I think that's where we left it. Joan, do you want to add some detail?
No, you pretty much covered it. Basically, we sort of boiled all the the nitty gritty of the edits into 3 basic categories. This is for the animal ordinance. One is corrections to the rabies, our rabies rules, so that they're more in compliance with state regulations and with science, which as they stand now, that there are several areas that are not in compliance with how we know the transmission works and the pathophysiology and all that. But so that's the first area. The second area is ethics, some more ethical, humane standards in the animal ordinance. And the third area, I'm sorry, I'm driving. Please apologize. I mean, please accept my apology.
Of course.
Be careful.
What was that third? What was the third area? We had boiled it down to 3 general
I think it was about
categories
some ownership issues, right? Sort of the there's some bad language in the ordinance that sort of puts the crime on the dog when it's actually
correct.
The unlawful activity would be
legal language stuff, things that need to be modified. The word more of a wording issues than actual substantive, but word choice to make it make more sense.
So it sounds like that you've made progress. And so the ordinances are old, the work is significant, and you with Maura's help have taken on the burden. So I think it is important for us to continue to push forward. I don't know that we have a specific timeline for that. The timeline, I think, is whatever best suits getting it done and getting it done right, so that maybe these will stand up as long as the last ones did.
Yeah. And so I have a few kind of action steps to take for that. I also know, and I don't have detail yet, but I have heard that the Parks and Rec Board is discussing like dog management in parks, like where you can be off leash, on leash, that type of thing, dog behavior issues that happen in our township parks. So there are certain things in the ordinance that would kind of end up on their plate, not ours. So I need to have those conversations to just sort of differentiate kind of what is more health related, disease related, and what is more, how to handle your dog in public sort of thing.
Right. So we certainly don't want to have any conflict between the two, but as long as they're
right. And one of the things.
Go ahead, Joe.
One of the issues that we had discussed is that in the animal ordinance, there's a lot of language that places the responsibility for sort of rendering judgments on these interdog issues, whether they're, two dogs walking down the street that tangle with each other, or if it's something that happens at a park. The onus is sort of on our police department, unfortunately, to like kind of go in there and make a judgment on a scene that really they weren't there to witness, and now they have to, write tickets or do a police report. And it's really a very unfortunate situation for the police officers and the township to have to get involved in when these issues are so nuanced, and it's always one person's word against the other, and they both have the opposite story about what happened. And yet the township and Bill Gallagher, unfortunately, have to get involved, and I can't imagine how horribly confusing it must be. So I think there is wording in the animal ordinance, and certainly I would involve Parks and Recreation too, in sort of getting the onus off of the township to get involved with that. But I think there might be some crossover in where the Board of Health would get involved with Parks and Recreation in terms of things like things to create safety, like mandating that dogs over a certain age are neutered. That's sort of a health issue that I think the Board of Health would address, but it's also a Parks and Recreation issue. So I guess more discussion has to be had on that.
Well, Joan, thanks for the work, and thanks for your forbearance in this. What I would suggest we do is allow you and Maura to continue to do the work you do. Come back to the board for any support or help that you might need, and if we can do such, we'll support you. And then we should make this a standing agenda item to update until we can close this out, and any effort that you need from me or the board in general to get it closed out, then we'll go there when the time comes. Does that sound like a reasonable way to close out this agenda item for this meeting?
Yes, happy
Yeah.
to continue to work on it.
Excellent. Thank you
Jim
very
and I
much.
are on the job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So the next piece of old business on the agenda is the follow-up on school board relationships, and I'm sorry to admit that I have nothing new there, except since we have reorganized our student intern, it feels as though we might have. What my vision there is that if we could get somebody from the school board, and I don't know who or what level that would be, to keep us involved, us apprised of what's going on in the school board and what issues might be issues of public health. It would be helpful for us to fulfill our remit and our commitment to the Board of Commissioners. I'm not sure how to best do that, and Maura, I'm rambling, so I'm going to dump this.
Yeah, I just have a quick update on that. Again, it's in progress, but I have reached out to the president of the school board. She was going to talk to others, I think, including the principal of the high school or the superintendent, to kind of get an idea of what type of person would be the best to think about. So I will have more information on that as I circle back with Susan Stern.
All right, so I'm more than happy to make any of the calls or any of the outreach that you might require or suggest. So if you need my help or want to keep me in the loop, that'd be great.
Yeah, I will definitely keep you on the loop with my next outreach, just so that we stay on top of it.
Very good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So that's the last of the 3 old business agenda items. I put in a 10-minute chunk here for Joan to lead a discussion on another item that she brings up that is I don't think it's new to anybody, that this is an item of passion for Joan on quality of life and and health in the township. So I called it road safety in Radnor Township, for want of a better term. And let me turn it over to you, Joan, for a discussion there.
Okay. So, I guess if I can just step back for a minute, when we think about the Board of Health and our job or our mission with the Board of Health, the mission statement does not mention the health of animals, but I do kind of think that we need to really think about that, and maybe even, and it's a discussion for another time, but maybe even think about modifying that statement. But I think the animals in our township are also members of our township, domesticated and wild animals. And I think we should think about bringing that more into the forefront. So among those animals are the ones that end up dead on the road. We have a lot of overdevelopment in the township. It's taking away habitat of foxes, skunks, coyotes, and everything else. And with our roads and the traffic, there's a lot of animals get killed, and I think it's very concerning. I think it's sad, and I think it's something that should be addressed. With at the very, I think it's easy enough to put up signs. There, several of you have mentioned that there are signs all over the place for deer crossings and this and that, wildlife in our township. Honestly, I haven't seen any. So I would like to know where they are. And maybe we should get a list of where those signs are. I drive all over the place constantly and I haven't seen them. So maybe there are some, but I think we need more. And I think in the areas like, let's say Darby Paley Road. Darby Paley Road is, even if you don't have deer jumping in the middle of the street, Darby Paley Road is a dangerous road. It's very windy. It's a windy, twisty road. I live right off that road. I've driven on that road thousands of times, and it's dangerous because it's twisty and you can't see past the turns. But throw in, animals into that, and then you have danger for people and for the animals. As I have said before, and it's very morbid, but I've made it a project to take pictures because I think seeing is believing. And I've got tons of pictures on my phone of dead animals. It's really sad, all on Radnor Road. And I think we need proper signage to let people know, slow down, you've got wildlife crossing. And most of that wildlife is not going to damage their car, and it's not going to result in an accident that's going to cause human damage. But some of it will. Certainly the deer can injure people, can destroy cars. But I think we need to think about the fact that if we're driving too fast, particularly at night, we're killing animals, and we need to reduce that. Whether or not that's an offense that would be ticketable, I personally think it should be. I think we should have that on the books, and then it's up to police officers whether they want to enforce that. But I do think that it should be on the books, at the very least, that our township makes a statement that we care about the wildlife residents of our township at all. So that's pretty much all I want to say on it. I'd be curious how everybody else feels.
Joan, I agree with you. I do think there needs to be more signage. There are deer crossing signs, but I think it would be very important to put wildlife signs up in many places, including Darby Road, excuse me.
Would there be a place that we could request where those signs are in the township? I imagine there's probably, a listing of where signs are located so we can identify roads that, would be options.
Yeah, I guess we have to look at the places where, I personally know within probably 3 miles of my house where I see the foxes crossing. And I'll
Mhm.
remind everybody that a fox is a dog. A fox has the same value as a dog in many ways. And I've seen dead foxes in the road. I know where there are families of foxes within, an area of my house. But where, I don't know. I don't know how we research that. Skunk Hollow's full of wildlife. The whole area up and down Darby Paoli Road. But I guess it would be, we'd have to make it a project to really look at all the land in the township and where that wildlife is, I guess. We could contact the state, the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We could and see if they've done wildlife surveys and find out where in our township they've done within our township.
Mhm.
I guess
I
that
would
would be the
also
way to
think
go.
having citizens involved. I mean, I feel like people, know, the people who live in the area certainly know it the best. I was also the only sign I can think of I've seen for anything other than deer is I know by the high school there is a goose crossing sign.
What crossing? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Goose cross. I think it's actually supposed to be a duck, but really
Oh,
what
okay.
crosses there is geese by the high school on, I
Okay.
guess I forget if that's either, is that
I think
King
it's
of Prussia?
Prussia.
I think it's King of Prussia Road, yeah. That's in terms of your question about that you've heard there are other ones and you're not sure where they are. I don't know now that Maura's back on, if Maura knows would traffic know where all of the existing signs are?
I know there's
I'm
one.
sorry, can you catch me up?
So I'm gonna jump in here because I have, since you brought this up, Joan, I have spent an immense amount of time thinking about what you said. And when I see a dead fox on the side of the road, I do want to cry. And I think that the diversity of wildlife in our township is one of the things that contributes to quality of life, and therefore it's a health issue from a quality of life point of view. But I've also been thinking, and you mentioned development, and certainly the Board of Health is not. It is not our job in the township to regulate development in the township, and loss of habitat is what drives animals to behave in ways that increases their risky behaviors and increases the amount of unfortunate interaction between motor vehicles and living beings, whether they're domestic, wild, or human animals. I also think that there has been a change. That there was a great period of time when nobody was on the roads during the pandemic, and that was pretty nice. And I think and we're not post-pandemic, but post that period of pandemic, I actually think the driving has become, there are more cars, the driving has become more aggressive, more hostile, less civil. But we are a volunteer board whose remit remains giving scientifically based and health-based information to the Board of Commissioners with recommendations for action. And I don't really want to put, for example, our police department in a bad light. My suggestion is that we do this in a stepwise fashion that allows us to come out with something real at the other end in terms of our ability to make an impact. And I wonder if we shouldn't invite Officer Flanagan, Chief Flanagan, for a discussion with us about what are the ways in which signage is, how is the decision made about where signs go? What could we do to get data on this? Because if it requires spending money, you damn well better believe we are going to need to have data to go to the Board of Commissioners to generate resources to do that. So I wonder if it would not be a good starting point to bring the chief of police in and have a discussion with him about what is the problem, what is the scope of the problem, and how can we act to move forward to actually make an impact. Joan, does that sound like a reasonable approach to you?
Yeah, sounds like a great idea.
Also,
Yeah.
who's the animal warden for Radnor Township? Isn't there somebody responsible for the animals?
Yeah, I
Bill
would also
Gallagher.
suggest inviting
Right.
Billy Gallagher.
Right,
Officer
that's right, Bill
does all
Gallagher.
of the.
Right.
Mhm. So yeah, I'm happy to make that. I will probably see one of them tonight, and we'll raise it.
Good.
That's great. So I think
Okay.
maybe we should put a significant chunk of time in our next meeting, and I'll work with Marie to figure out if maybe we needed to extend the meeting or whatever, but so that we can give Billy Gallagher and I guess he likes to be called Officer Flanagan, but Chief Flanagan a little bit of time, and us some time, and everybody do your homework and come in with what you have, the best things that you have in terms of what we're trying to solve against. And maybe we can put together a multi-pronged approach and get some things done. Does that sound like fun?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it does. And I can contact, I'll see if I can contact the Pennsylvania Game Commission and
Yeah.
the Department of Fish and Wildlife and see if they've done any type of wildlife surveys of the different species in the different parts of Pennsylvania. Maybe they actually have some numbers for the different species and where in Radnor Township the highest populations are.
Mhm.
That's great. That's a great idea, and we can incorporate that, make that part of that discussion. I think that's the kind of thing I mean when I say we can come prepared to conversation and put it in a constructive direction next time around. Anybody
Good.
else need to weigh in on that? All right. So there are two more agenda items. One is COVID updates. I do have some folks who want some time for public participation. I don't think that that I need to spend too much time on COVID. In fact, the main COVID item I think we covered off on discussion about where we'll meet next time. It's a fluid environment. I think that that we are coming into I'm pretty darn confident that boostering is going to be a significant part of the next phase. And although the FDA restricted it, they actually haven't ruled. The advisory committee of the FDA restricted over 65. The truth of the matter is the data they had suggested that 60 should have been the cutoff age. We don't have any data, and all the data really comes out of Israel. So it's all Pfizer data, and Pfizer also submitted their booster application. Moderna will be doing such. So I think that's a stay tuned. To me, what has emerged is that neutralizing antibodies actually represent a reasonable surrogate marker for risk for infection. And that in that it's not surprising that as neutralizing antibody levels fall, they fall naturally, that people who start with higher ones, younger people, have longer immunity. People who start with lower ones have shorter immunity. And the data, there's a little bit of data to suggest that Moderna had about a 30% higher initial antibody level. And that, in fact, the Pfizer's about 6 months to the beginning of breakthroughs. It looks like Moderna maybe 7 or even a little bit longer than that, concurrent with the higher starting point. So there's lots of things that are going to be happening, but I think people should be prepared for the evolution of a boostering program, which might just be the next step into the perennialization of this. I don't know whether that I may be jumping the gun there, but making it more look more like the flu. And I'm going to editorialize. Normally, I get my flu shot on October 15th or thereabouts, as close to thereabout. I am going to recommend to folks, personal opinion, that the possibility of a significant flu outbreak this year is high, because there is a huge volume of naive population out there with almost no flu last year, very little flu the year before, and a difficult year for figuring out what to do with the vaccines. I think we may have a significant flu season. So my recommendation is, folks, get your flu shots and don't delay. That's an editorial comment. And with that, unless there's somebody wants to disagree with me or bounce off on that, I'm going to turn it to Marie to open the public participation. Any other comments on COVID or flu?
I just have a question. Where, okay, with the restaurants and businesses, what's the township's role in setting any kind of like regulations or whatever on the restaurants and their rules with regard to having people wear masks until they sit down, or any kind of, I mean, does the township have any authority in how the restaurants operate and their rules with respect to COVID?
So in short, no. We go by the we go by the guidance of the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. They are the ones who, wrote the food code. They're the ones that give us all the updates to the food code and have been relaying the state's message for food places. In addition to, this general state's mitigation guidance for COVID. So once all that was lifted, Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture just separated themselves from any sort of mitigation having to do with restaurants or food places. The one thing we were able to do, because we established this, contact list, communication list, we were able to put out, I think I mentioned to you all before, we have a really solid group of all of our establishments, probably 75% of our establishments on an email contact list, and we're able to give them updates all throughout the pandemic. We also kind of just routinely put out information that will be helpful for them. And then when we go out on the inspections, or well, now just me who go out on the inspections, I always make a point to have a conversation with them about any concerns that they have, COVID related, what they've seen, what questions they have. And I just offer the guidance as it's stated, in the state. So through the Department of Health, sorry. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering what the restaurants are doing. I know there's one in the township, and I just know this from a news story, that there is one in our township that requires a vaccine card. But are the other restaurants doing anything? My own observation, I've seen some that, they're extremely crowded, and I don't know.
It's kind of, from what I've seen, I'll tell you firsthand what I've seen, it's all over the place. The majority of folks are letting the staff, decide whether they want to get vaccinated or wear a mask. They all, from what I have seen over the last year and a half, they all have put a COVID policy in place. So if there's an exposure or illness, they are consistently across the board on top of it. They're not allowing people to come to work when they're sick. If there's a potential exposure, they do not come in. That has been consistent across the board. We've got people who have not opened up their doors at all to indoor dining. It is all takeout only. So we have this with a spectrum in Radnor from what I see, but the majority is they're leaving it up, the businesses are making the decision, independently and individually.
So in the absence of a new outbreak and a state mandate drilled down to the county level, it is really up to the individual businesses is the bottom line here.
Yeah. I do wonder if we should, as the Board of Health, I wonder if we should make a statement on that,
I don't feel that I think we're probably on the same side of this, that I think that mitigating behaviors probably should, they're proven to work and it would be helpful. I don't believe that we have the data to ask the township to take up an issue that's driven by the state and the county and to take on the state or the county. So I think that I just don't know what we could do.
Okay.
The only thing I'll throw into this discussion is, since our last meeting, I did do a ride along with Marie on a couple of inspections, and I can vouch for the excellent job that she does in education when she's talking to restaurants during her inspections.
So it's not just
Right.
inspecting, it's educating. Is that right?
Yes.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's very kind of you, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
All right, Marie, shall we ask public participation? Laura!
Yes, hi, I'm at the Township building, so I have to jump off. We're doing a board meeting to do the overview of the budget. So thank you, everyone. I will catch up on what I missed, and I will for sure listen for the public comment in case there's anything that is needed from me.
A very
Great.
nice.
Thanks
fitting
a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Fred.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I think that you can announce public participation, Dr. Simmons, and ask folks to use the raise hand selection at the bottom, and then Ian will kind of let them in one at a time.
All right, so that's where we are. So for our agenda, we've come to the public participation portion, and Ian will monitor. And so if there are people on the call who wish to participate, use raise hand, as Marie said, and Ian will let you on one at a time.
Yeah, we have John LaPlaca, first public participation. And just remind everyone to use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom panel if you wish to participate, and we'll get to you in the order that you raise your hand.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with the board tonight. I do understand as it exists today, and I did hear your comments at the beginning of the meeting when there was an open mic, but I understand as it exists today, the board may not currently recognize serious mold issues as a matter of public health that they have addressed in the past. But as an advisory entity, I'm here today to request that the board reconsider based on a serious health situation that's going on in the student housing at Villanova University. We are, as parents, are really delighted to have a student as part of the Villanova family, but this particular issue has really created serious concerns amongst the families about the college's ability to police themselves regarding what is clearly a widespread presence of mold in the student dorms. There is a well-established parent-only Facebook group of about 4,600 members. It's been an amazing resource, I will tell you, over the last several months for us parents. Unfortunately, there are well over 100 posts as of today within the group regarding mold on a variety of surfaces, including ceilings and walls, clothing, the HVAC systems, and parents are very concerned because students are actually getting sick. And I'm speaking on behalf of my own daughter, not for anyone else, who has been sick for the past several weeks. There are over 1,800 freshman students. They have all types of issues as far as nasal and sinus congestion, eye irritation, respiratory problems. And the parents are reporting that the kids have gotten tested. They have been on antibiotics, which have been non-reactive. They've been COVID tested, and they've improved when the kids that have actually gone home have improved, only to get worse when they come back to campus. Speaking personally, we've reported it to the college, and they did, in fairness to the college, send people out right away to address the presence of mold. But in many cases, they said that's not mold, that it was dust, that it was dirt. In many cases, they simply just use bleach cleaner to clean, correct the problem. But unfortunately, we're putting a Band-Aid on an issue and not actually addressing the cause of the issue. We did our own independent test with the mold kit, and it did grow a large amount of mold. So and that was the airborne kit, not even the contact kit. So there is mold within the air in the student housing. So, at this point, we completely recognize the fact that the board may, as of today, not recognize that mold is as an issue of public health that you would currently address. But we really need your help at this point going forward to help us work with the university to get this under control, because we've got a lot of kids that are sick at this point. We are, as parents, very, very concerned. And this is a public health issue that we think that the board should definitely take up and work with us to remedy, because we're not getting anywhere on our own.
I have a question. Does this concern certain dorms, the new dorms versus old dorms, or is this throughout the campus?
So it appears at this point to be primarily in the freshman housing. It's not limited to one building. It's under several of them, and most of them are on the South Campus. We did a little research. Most of the buildings were built in the 80s. Most of they're concrete block buildings that the university has set up extension cords and industrial dehumidifiers in the hallways, but unfortunately in the rooms, they're not really getting good air ventilation in there. And you can see the surface mold just building up almost on a daily basis within these
Oh, gosh.
these buildings.
The Sullivan and Stanford?
Yes, there's actually 5 buildings, St. Monica's, Stanford, and on South Campus, I believe.
This is all, your issue is all on South Campus? Is that what I'm
Yeah, it
hearing?
appears to be all on South Campus. And again, I can't speak for the other parents, but just based upon the sharing of information in the groups, they're all reporting of showing pictures of on buildings in South Campus. And this is even things like black mold on, things like shoes and clothing. And, I can't say for sure it's only South Campus. I'm sure there's probably other parents that we're going to speak tonight, but I can tell you that it is rampant on South Campus at this point.
Well, I can share your concern because as a college parent of a college kid, I have the same issue at my son's school. And yeah, so I don't know what to say, but yeah, I think that the Board of Health should definitely look into this.
So
Dr. Simmons, I'm not 100% sure, but I think ideally it's to listen to the comments and the board doesn't comment. So we'll just go.
all right, so this is an opportunity to give people their say.
Yes.
And by our rules, we're not commenting on their comments,
Yes.
because I think they're asking for our comment.
And if I could just add one other thing.
So what you can do is what I believe would happen is they would place their comments and then you can put the discussion on the agenda next month.
Okay.
Could I just add one other thing?
Sure, John.
And I'll make it quick. A quick internet search, you can do it yourself as well. This is not a new problem. There was a widespread, both in the media as well as student-led organizations that documented this back to 2018. So unfortunately, this exists. If we had known this exists, it may have, factored into a lot of people's decision-making, but it's a prestigious university and they do so many things so well. And we're delighted to be there. Unfortunately, it's frightening to think that they're inhaling this on a regular basis when there in these dorms. And again, we just really need your help.
Thanks, John. Next up, Kathleen D. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Hi, are you hearing me all right? Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Yes, my son is a freshman in St. Monica's on South Campus, and we had seen from the Facebook page last year the issues with the moisture. So we arrived with a dehumidifier, an air purifier, and damp rid, and they've had those running nonstop since day one, as well as the air conditioner. Didn't open the windows, followed all the instructions. I'd say within 4 days, both boys had respiratory problems. And I said, well, you've had a mask on for the last year and a half. You're exposed to a lot of germs. It'll be fine. But just have them come and check your air conditioner just in case. And they came out immediately, said it was fine. 3 days later, the roommate, who is an engineering student, took the AC apart, took the cover off and got in there with a flashlight and found mold that they had missed. And they came right back out and cleaned it. We were just up there for Parents' Weekend. And he's got mold on the ceiling right above his bed. And he's got ductwork in the corner, and it appears to be fanning out from the ductwork growing from out of the ductwork onto the ceiling. I feel like from seeing all of the other comments, seeing other parents cleaning their ceilings and their walls and everything on the weekend, I think that the university probably needs some help with training. I don't think that anyone is going out there and deliberately not finding what they're sent out to check for. I think they just may not know what to look for. The fact that they're getting told it's dust on the ceiling doesn't really make any sense. So I do feel like they need some support. And even if you don't have, an enforcement power, if the board could maybe reach out, a supportive hand and say, is there a way we could help you with this? Is there some way we could hook you up with some resources? I'm not sure that the extent of the issue or the extent of the health issues is really getting across. Both boys have had respiratory issues since they got there in the middle of August now. And mine, sure enough, has gotten tested for COVID twice, gotten tested for strep, everything's negative, came home, started feeling better, went back, got worse. So it's very pervasive, and it does seem to be primarily the South Campus, and I think there's 1 or 2 dorms on Main that are the issue. But anything the board could do to reinforce that this is a really serious issue would be very helpful.
Okay, next up, it looks like Sandy L.
Yes, hi, my name is Sandy, and I am also a parent of a freshman at Villanova. My son lives in Stanford Hall. I don't need to repeat everything that the parents are saying, but I just want to validate what they've said. And I also saw it with my own eyes when I was there for Parents Weekend this past weekend. Both my son and his roommate have been sick since they arrived, and they are COVID negative on a regular basis. So this is a pervasive issue. You can feel the dampness in the air. And I also, they can submit maintenance requests all they want, and the school does come out and they're band-aiding it though. I mean, clearly there's a much broader issue than cleaning individual rooms. So somehow, and I agree with what the others have said, that the school does not seem to be grasping the scope of the issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, it looks like Nicole Morgan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
Great, thank you. I'd like to add on top of the others that my daughter's a sophomore. She is on main campus in Alumni Hall. She has been sick since she's been there. Her first week, the Student Health Center put her on antibiotics and did the regular testing and told her she had a sinus infection. She's telling me for the past week or two, she's so tired, she's missing classes. She's a 4.0 student. She was diagnosed last night with pneumonia. She also happened, whether the moisture is attracting this or not, but last night there were some cockroaches in their bedroom. So the girls started pulling apart their drawers and lifting up their mattresses, and her bedding was moldy. So I have photographs of the black molds all over the mattress pad that we purchased. Her clothes in her closet are moldy, and the damp rate in her closet is filling up every week. Right now I don't know what more to do. She's so sick. She's not even going to classes. So we moved her into a hotel. She took an Uber and she vacated tonight. I think the issue is not only identifying the mold, but remediating it off of everything, their bed. I just don't even know how she's going to be able to go back in the dorm. And she was told there's not even another option for her at this time. I think we need all hands on deck to help the school, help the students, and I'm beyond concerned right now. And I know everybody wants to help.
Okay, it looks like next up is C, first initial, and From, last name.
Hi, yes, I'm another parent at Villanova, and I have a freshman daughter at St. Mary's on West Campus. I don't believe the mold is as visible as it is on South Campus, but and when I was up there for Parents Weekend this weekend, I did look in the unit because my daughter has also been sick since the first week of school, has been COVID tested. She even came up for surveillance testing on top of that, and was treated for a sinus infection. And again, it is not really resolving. So I believe it's related to air quality. We have 2 air purifiers in a room and a dehumidifier and a fan and multiple damp rids that are filling up every week. And there's even water visible sometimes accumulating on the unit itself. So when I pulled the vent cover off, I'm not an engineer. I did not dismantle the unit, but I did pull the vent covers off and put my camera in there to look around, and there's clearly moisture accumulating in there and what appears to be mold to me in growing inside the unit itself, as well as a filter that doesn't look to be recently changed. So I just wanted to add to what everyone else is saying, my concerns, and ask for your assistance in whatever way you can support it. Thank you.
trying to get to everybody who didn't get a chance to speak. Looks like Murphy Tannen is up.
Hi there. Thank you. Oh, gotta unmute. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. I just wanted to point out that on move-in day, there was actually condensation on the walls when my child arrived in St. Monica Hall. So we're not really sure of the source. I don't think that the mold is just clearly coming from the air conditioning units, because the mold was all the way on the top. I don't know if there's piping going through there, but I really think the source of the mold needs to be located. Again, my child is sick as well. I also wanted to point out that I only posted this link late this afternoon. You know, there's probably at least hundreds of parents that have been posting with the same concern. So this is just a small sampling that you're getting here tonight, because this was a very late in the game post that I put up for people to register. And the fact that we've already had this many people register for on such short notice is, you know, indicative of how serious of an issue this is for our students. But I just want to thank you, and I'm hopeful that you guys can help us address the issue. That's it. Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have to jump out for another meeting.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, so I need to address, Marie, we are well beyond end of meeting, so I don't know that, let me just ask our public participants. We hear loud and clear that there are more of you than we can possibly handle tonight who have serious complaints about the health of their children, and I can hear loudly and clearly the anxiety and strain that is coming. If there are more people that want to add additional information, we're happy to hear it. But I think that we as the board, as Marie pointed out, are happy to take this on to make it an agenda item for our next. But I have to give a certain amount of caution to the folks. It doesn't sound like you feel like there's a lot of time here, and the ability of the board to move quickly is the biggest limitation on our ability to be helpful to you. So we will do what we can, but I can't make any promises for any quick resolution. So we are more than happy to take this on as an issue moving forward. And if there are more folks that want to continue to speak, please.
I think the only one on this list who hasn't had a chance to speak is, looks like first initial L, last name Rasson.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. I think you just hit the nail right on the head. And that's the fact that I think time is of the essence right now for these kids. They've already been suffering for months, and it's become apparent probably through the Facebook page with the different parents talking to each other, that we all came to the realization that the common factor in all this seems to be the mold when all these kids are so sick. So as much as I appreciate what you said, and that I know you can't comment on this tonight and that you're willing to address it at your next meeting, I just, as a layman's suggestion, is it possible to reach out to Villanova just to get a discussion going in the meantime before your next meeting takes place? The kids are really suffering. Like the one woman said, they go home for a few days, they feel a little better, and they come back and they're sick again. So it's been such a frustrating situation for everyone. And any help that you could give, even if it's just reaching out to the university to start a dialogue going before your next meeting would I think we would all appreciate it.
So I think that I'm going to give Maria a chance to jump in here, but the fact that we put it on as an agenda before the next meeting does not mean that we won't see what we can do in the interim. But again, if you need something fast, it's not going to happen through this board. This board is a group of volunteers whose remit is to provide scientific advice to the Board of Commissioners, which would be the action the action arm for anything that we could do moving forward. So I hear it's breaking my heart, but it feels like as if there's a real issue, but the speed with which we can move doesn't feel like it's commensurate with the sense of need that I'm sensing from all of you folks. Marie, did you have something you wanted to add?
So I guess what I'll add, thank you, Dr. Simmons, what I will add here that may be helpful at the board's suggestion, I'm happy to treat this as a complaint and do a follow-up call. I can, without getting deep into it, I can tell you that we've taken numerous calls on mold across the township, but because, again, just because we do not have any regulations, for mold, there is not a whole lot we can do. But if you want me to reach out to Villanova and have a conversation and try to sum up if there's anything that they're doing to remediate or control a leaky roof or whatever or the condensation line in the air conditioning unit or whatever they have kind of identified the problem to be that's causing the mold, I'm happy to make a phone call and to see if I can get some general information and bring it back to you, and then you'll have a little bit more to go on. I'll wait for your direction.
Can I also just ask, I know Commissioner Mulroney said she was going to listen to the public comment when she gets a chance, and I'm sure she will, whether, I know we're saying we can't necessarily address this so quickly, whether there are other elements within the township that I don't know if this almost sounds to me more like a codes thing than a Board of Health thing, because it sounds like something with the building rather than which we don't oversee so much. I don't know if that's something you could initiate or something Commissioner Maroney could initiate if it's a conversation that needs to be had with a different piece of the township apparatus.
Well, so go ahead, Marie. I'm sorry.
I was just going to make a brief comment. So typically, Alex, what we do is I coordinate with several other different departments. It's oftentimes that I reach out to the code official or code officials, and we pull the information and data together, and then we decide if this is a health issue or what I can do, or if this is a building code issue. I can tell you that the codes team has been out of Villanova in the past. There has not been any specific code building complaint that has come in. I'm happy to, actually, to be honest with you, I've already had a conversation with the code official about this. So
okay.
I'm a few steps ahead, just, because that's what we naturally do anyway with a complaint. That's kind of how we begin the process. So if we get some information out of a brief phone call with Villanova, just to kind of find out what the status is, and it sounds like something that the code team needs to be involved in, sure, we can.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Marie, but just like any facility, whether it's a university or whatever, at the end of the day, if there is something that needs remediation, it's the facility itself that will take on the responsibility for that remediation. And I make that comment because regardless of what we do, it sounds to me like there is a coalescing going on within the public of the realization of a problem. And it sounds like up till now, the university's response has been an itch here, a scratch there, but it has not necessarily come to the realization of a more major problem that is widespread. From what I'm hearing, that there are several dorms, rather several people with students in several dorms in several parts of the campus. And so the public coalescing to bring more serious attention on the part of the university, as opposed to just sending out somebody from their public works, is the most likely way to move quickly. And in the meantime, we can do as Marie has said, we can act on not we actually in this case, the health officer and other arms that actually have implementation capabilities within the township. And we can see what we have and whether we can help to move forward and make this an agenda item on our next meeting. Marie, is that okay with you?
Sure.
When I get back from Vermont, I'll reach out to you and maybe we can talk.
Sure, absolutely.
Does that,
I think everybody got a chance to speak.
excellent. Well, isn't that a fun way to end the meeting? I'm really sorry
No.
for everybody and their
Predicament.
distress and hopefully we'll be able to be helpful.
Yep.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Aye. Motion to
Yeah.
adjourn.
Aye.
Second.
In the absence of any objection, I think we can end the meeting by acclamation and we'll look forward. We've got some stuff to do in between this and our next meeting. So
All right. Take care, guys. It's been a
thank you
pleasure.
for taking the minutes.
Bye, Dr. Carabassi.
Bye-bye.
Jane, we will miss you immensely. It's been a real
Yes.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.